it's Luna. Welcome to day 8 of Moth Eaten Reels 31 Days of Horror 2024. Today was the kitschy, gauche, phenomenal, iconic Frankenhooker from 1990. Let's talk about it. So we already start the movie with some fantastic visuals, that good like crossover between like the 80s and then the early 90s. But it is then this guy, Jeff Franken, we love the creative names, genuinely. And he is working on a brain with a purple eyeball in the middle. And the comedy starts immediately as he's working on this apparently in the kitchen of his girlfriend's mum. And she asks him to pass the ketchup, very lackadaisically, nonchalant, and I just... Oh, what's that? Oh, hello. I wonder why the ketchup was there, you know? But even better for the comedy. And he's at his girlfriend's mum's house because in the garden, his girlfriend's dad has a birthday party going on. And so she comes in, she calls him inside and is like, you need to be outside for my dad's birthday, you know, especially because like, I'm going to be your wife one day. He and Elizabeth Shelley are very in love. And then she's presenting her dad with her birthday present to him, a lawnmower. And she goes full commercial showing off. She's like, look at its power and other lawnmower things. I don't know. I don't have a lawn because you know what? Lawns are not that great for biodiversity. Write that down. When she's showing off this lawnmower, we realize what lawnmowers are also not good for, and that is safety. This thing has like 1,000,001 like razor blades inside or something. It's less of a lawnmower and more like a crop gatherer thing. I've completely forgotten the name for what it is, but you know, on the farm with the tractor with the blades and it cut the corn, that one. And then it cuts her into many small little pieces. It is a tragedy, but clearly meant to be freaking hilarious, and it is. There's a nice, delicious, cornstarchy blood splatter lands on a nearby garden gnome. Lots of silly 80s screaming. We're in corny slasher territory here, and it's grand. It really opens up the movie for what it is. I love that we learn shortly after from news coverage that her mother's name, Elizabeth Shelley, her mother's name is Meredith Shelley. It's such a little thing. It doesn't linger on it. It doesn't go, haha, we are so clever. And I think that's what then made it really like tickle me, like, Meredith. But the news coverage is on because obviously this was a tragic death, you know. She's been lawnmowed up into little pieces. And then the news report is also telling us that some horrible people have been gathering up the pieces that remain. It focuses on a shot of the cops like, she's like a jigsaw puzzle. She's like a tossed salad. And of course, who's been gathering up the pieces but Jeff Franken, her beloved. He's been gathering up the pieces, which is a hand, a foot, and her head, the important bit. Man's got head, GG. His mother's very sympathetic, you know? He's just like, I feel like I'm moving away from myself. Like, I just don't even know the difference between good and evil anymore. I don't know who I am. I don't know what to do. And she's like, do you want a sandwich? Very supportive. It's what we all need, I think, really, when we're having these dark thoughts like, am I a monster, perhaps? He doesn't just have a sandwich, but an elaborate dinner with wine with the head of Elizabeth. And we get another great scene for just this really dorky comedy that really is just so unserious in the best kitschy way, you know? He pours some of this expensive wine into her mouth and it's obviously just pouring out of her neck onto the table. He's like, I can't find the rest of your body. Which body parts do you want? And he's going through these various flippin' pictures in a magazine. Like, well, what about her? Oh, you deserve great breasts. You deserve these great legs. What do you want? A lot of the movie is actually him just mumbling to himself in a bit of a monologue, and it is crazy and it is wild. And another aspect of this is that he just casually gets a drill a lot of the time and just drills his head like gentle lobotomies, you know? Just giving that grey matter a little jiggle with a drill so he can come up with his best ideas. And it is in this moment that he becomes someone who does come up with a good idea, and that is, of course, to go get hookers for their body parts. It's a film called Frankenhooker. I hope you didn't expect more. And as a side note, that is why I respect sex workers. Of course I do. But I'm just going to be calling the sex workers hookers just for, you know, the film, the name of the film. That's just what goes, yeah? And so we get more of then him just like mumbling to himself a lot. He drives to downtown New York in the dorkiest glasses, and I think he's got his little lab coat on, you know. So we just have this very silly scene of him just like driving down so that then like the hookers will approach him. And then he meets some flippin' lovely women. Bit of trivia for you. Actually, the people they hired to play the hookers were real prostitutes, and they actually joined SAG after filming this film. I love that for them, because they were really good at their role, you know? And so with this, he then obviously is bolstered in his plan. He's managed to then get himself involved in a whole, like, group, I suppose. So they're all hookers that are all then, like, pimped out by this one guy, Zorro. So he just, like, gets Zorro's entire squad? Sure, squad. And they're all then, like, marked ready kind of for him to then see them later. We have another strange bit of news footage, which I kind of liked as then, like, this... See, another thing about this film that is great in terms of just how unserious it is how it brushes against so many of the hot topics at the time, you know, the controversial things, the things that a lot of movies would have had, like, something to say about it. What does this movie have to say? Comedy. Comedy horror, that's what it has to say. And good for them. There's this link they make between prostitutes and drugs and how then really, like, they should be then getting kind of more help for that. I forget. It's one of those where... The thing is, the footage they show, it's like, they kind of have a point, but also the point is just too bananas to actually be a point. You know? That kind of drug-laced point. How can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real? Think on it. And so with this news coverage, he then, like, makes the connection of, like, damn, hookers love drugs, and you know what? If they were to die from drugs, that wouldn't be me murdering them. As he's thinking this, he's just drilling, you know, he's giving the old little massage to the grey matter with a drill. And so he creates super crack. And as all good scientists should, he makes sure that this super crack is appropriate for human consumption and does the thing that he wants it to do. It does, because he kind of steams it through the cage of this guinea pig. Sorry, it's not funny after I've been so concerned about animal harm, you know, but no animals were harmed in the making of this film, and no hookers were harmed in the making of this film. The guinea pig explodes into just fluff. You know, it's evocative of like a pillow fight or something. It's funny. Even if you love guinea pigs, even if guinea pigs are your life, it's funny. And so off he goes with his super crack to all the hookers that he's hired out for 30 minutes. And, you know, they're on at him like, actually, you said you would pick one of us, you know, because the rest of us have got somewhere to be, you know? In a way, I think that, like, as much as this film is then, like, definitely in that realm of, like, misogynistic, it's almost like, right, hear me out, it's like shonen manga. Sorry. No, yeah, shonen manga. And hear me out. Because we have the same scenario where shonen manga is so misogynistic that the characters are, like, gay in the end, right? And then Frankenhooker is almost, like, so misogynistic it's feminist. Anyway, so he's like, yeah, and then goes and, you know, measures their parts for what he wants to reconstruct for Elizabeth. And then we just have some very flippin', corny, cheesy scenes of then just like the body parts, and one of them is then one of the girls' asses, and he just like puts a big tick on one of the cheeks. And then by the end of it, when they're all like, because they think that they've kind of gone for some sort of like competition, like one of them is going to win for like the actual girl that he like wants to do hooker things with at the end. I don't know why I'm being so coy. I mean, am I? I'm still using the word hooker. Anyway. And so they're like, come on, who have you picked? And he's like, I can't actually. And he's like mumbling to himself again, like, a bunch of this movie is a delight just because of his own like delirious mumbles to himself, and he's obviously then feeling like he's got second thoughts about murdering these girls that he's not really murdering, but yeah, he is. And so he's just like, I can't, I'm sorry, and just chucks the bag of cash at them. He has a lot of money. I don't know where from, but that's not important because this movie is not flipping begging us to think about anything. It is just funny. And it was then, you know, in a way, a bit of a breath of fresh air. Some things are not that deep. Things can be that deep. As a side note, I am a big freaking hater of the curtains were just blue, you know the one, a crash course. So a frequent thing that pops up when students are being taught literature in school is why are the curtains blue? And then it became this kind of meme of the curtains are just blue. And I don't like that because sometimes, you know what, the curtains are just blue to the author, but what do they mean to you, you know? You can get a lot of social messaging out of this film if you want to. But for a first time watch, for watching a film, for entertainment, God forbid, I know, it's just fun. It's unserious and it's good for that. It's very good. And so when he chucks this bag of cash at them, they also find at the bottom the super crack. The guinea pig exploding super crack. They go ridiculously rabid for it. He's like still muttering to himself like, no, don't stop, but not in a kind of Gene Wilder, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory way. Sorry, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is Tim Burton. Gene Wilder is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Not important. He's like, oh, you're like cats on catnip. It's wild. They really love it. Like some of them, I don't think they've even smoked it yet, but they're just making out. They're like, a party, fantastic. And then it's the guinea pig exploding crack. It is also the hooker exploding crack. There they go, bang, 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 bang. And it's just so goofy. It is proper goofy. No gore, you know? 80s kind of like, well, it's 1990, but you know, it's kind of like how Alien is 1979, but it gets lumped in the 80s movies. I kind of want to lump Frankenhooker in with the 80s movies just for some of these like practical effects, you know. But it is not then the 8 pints of blood in one finger chopped off practical effects, but it is just like boom, 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 and it's silly and it's fun. And they all break into convenient parts. And one of those convenient parts is the first hooker he's met. Her head goes flying in the door, and when Zorro comes in, it's just like, what's going on in there? Whacks him unconscious as it's spinning around. Should have got out of his way. Kylie Minogue warned him, you know? Not by 1990, though, actually. But that's why Kylie Minogue warned us all. She's spinning around. Get out of her way. And Jeff Franken... he's still just, like, mumbling to himself. Just this absolute dork. Just like... Oh no, I'm sorry everyone. Sorry everyone, this wasn't supposed to happen. I'm gonna fix you all, I promise, I'm gonna fix you all. I just have to fix Elizabeth first. So he takes them all home because he's been on a timer this whole period. Because a storm's been coming, and it is of course the storm that he needs the lightning from to then reanimate Elizabeth and bring her back to life with the parts that he's gathered. So all of these parts are in the freezer, and he's like, I'm sorry, and he picks out the new parts ready for Elizabeth. He's juggling these titties, which are individual tits, which, another fun bit of trivia, each cast member got to take a single prosthetic tit home. I love that for them. And of course then he reconstructs Elizabeth, and then the lightning strikes, and then she is alive. We don't get a she's alive, but it's too iconic. You can't not think of it every time there's like a certain kind of lightning strike in.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
But she's back, and then the first things that she says, she's come back wrong, because she's just reanimated and repeating the lines of the girls that she's made of, you know? Like, specific individual lines that they have said to Jeff throughout the movie, but also, like, then the generic lines that they've still said, but, you know, she comes back and immediately is, got any money? Need some company? Today's look is a little bit of a homage to that, I suppose. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. This is just... whew, not to be feeble, but, like, it's a difficult movie to then try and just pull off a feel. I think you should just watch it. I really hope that then this is one that you watch before that you see this review, because it's just so silly. It needs to be seen. And so, with all of this in mind, she then goes off back to where she knows, or, you know, the pieces of her know. She goes back to that area in New York. She ends up in a bar. She's propositioning everyone that she sees, getting rejected by many, but then she finds the first guy that is like, whoa, mama! I don't know. And she takes him to some place where then, not that it's super duper important, but I wasn't entirely clear watching. I'm just like, has penetration happened? Either way, he explodes. She's come back not only as many she's, but also electric. This guy that she's taken away to this room, he explodes. He explodes. He's still got a little bit of life of him left as she picks up the head of him and he goes, that was wonderful. So he died happy, which is something I think that we all deserve in the end. So she's not a villain. But she makes her way to this bar. Meanwhile, obviously, Jeff is looking for her, and one of the places that he runs into, they say, like, what, you're looking for Zorro's girls? Don't be a sicko, they're all gone. All of Zorro's girls are gone. And so he's chased away and just, oh god, he's just the perfect actor for this bumbling muttering. It just makes all of these scenes so much more amusing, you know? And so Elizabeth, she's found her way to a bar where Zorro is, and she doesn't know that. Like, Zorro doesn't know initially, but she's obviously going around acting weird, regurgitating all of these lines of then all the people that she's made of, and stuff that they've said in the last 24 hours. And, yeah, but when Zorro sees her, sees that she's got a little tattoo, a little Zorro tattoo on her arm, he's like, you're not one of my girls, who the fuck are you? Oh, where are my girls? Wow, sicko. And ends up punching her in the head so that her head disconnects. And she's inactive at this point, but it's just as Franken comes in and finds her, he takes her back to his and manages to reanimate her again, but in a way where then it's Elizabeth's mind that's controlling the mouth. She has not much memory initially, but in the end, after a few minutes, does manage to remember everything. And at first is like super pleased about it. She's like, whoa, Jeff, this is a miracle. You need to tell the world about this. Think how many people you could save. And he's like, oh no, I can't. The life serum, the reanimation serum, it's estrogen based. Keep this in mind because it will be important later. I am of course joking because nothing's important and that's why it's so good. She then realizes that her body seems a bit off. And she's like, well, what did you do? And he explains what he's done, and she is not as happy about it. But it's fine. Justice is delivered swiftly when Zorro's followed them home. And so he decapitates Jeff right in front of her. But shortly before she left, the freezer full of the other parts. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, she knocked Jeff out before she left. That's obviously why he didn't follow her then. Sorry, that was crucial information I missed. And also that the freezer was giggling because that was also connected to the lightning strike. It is now relevant again as we get... This is then horrific. This then isn't entirely goofy in my opinion. The first mutation to pop out of this freezer to go after Zorro looks like something from that game Catherine. It's just tits on the bottom, torso, and then kind of a curve which is like a mouth upside down. I don't think we can show it on YouTube, so I hope that description was enough for those of you who are watching this just for fun. Please just watch the movie, it's so much. And so Zorro is dragged into this fridge by all of the bits, all of the parts, and then I think the last one manages to also pick some crack from his pocket and says some silly little line like, hee hee, we're smoking good tonight, girls. I don't know. As you can tell, I had a lot of fun with this. But then Elizabeth, of course, is alone. What does she do? What does she do? Well, there's a bit of a fade to black and a flash forward, and then we see that Jeff is alive. We see his head in the same place that hers was when she was reanimated, and she's there in like her get up, just like, oh, I did it, you're back. He's like, but how? She's like, you left extensive notes. This is adorable because she actually did not convey any interest in science beforehand. Right at the beginning at her party for her dad's birthday, her friend is there and they have a conversation about the fact that she, oh gosh, yummy 90s horrific diet culture is in there, the peak period of the heroin chic. And so she's chatting to her friend about the fact that, like, she just can't stop eating. Like, she's tried so many diets and goes through these various ridiculous diets. And then she's like, but Jeff helped. She's like, how? She's like, oh, he's, like, stapled my stomach. Anyway, it's during this that we find out that she has no kind of, like, scientific leanings of her own, but appreciates that Jeff does, you know, for her dieting. But she says to him, you left extensive notes. So clearly, you know, science isn't that hard. Hire me, NASA. But friends, remember that the reanimation serum is estrogen based and apparently only works on women. And the fact that she had a lot of parts of a certain type. So we get this final scene that, again, because of the rest of the movie is just so unserious, I've just got a feeling a lot of the queers TM who've seen this movie are like, nope, bravo. Because he looks down, the camera pans down, and there's the honkin' badonkus. And he covers his bits, but he's like, where's my Johnson? But she says, no, it's okay. We can all be happy now, together. Roll credits. Such a fantastic movie, you know. I was concerned at one point, you know, you'd have thought that Frankenhooker would have immediately then set off these kinds of alarm bells, but funnily enough it didn't. It was a certain point, I can't remember when, that I was worried that this would end up like a lot of low-budget horror movies that just descend into pure porn. I had a period of my life where I watched a lot of pure shit horror movies. I couldn't tell you the name of a single one. It was a bad period of my life. I was not sleeping for like days on end. And yeah, when I tell you, so many of the movies from this period especially really do just descend into bad porn. Like, that's the real crime here. Not just that it descends into porn, but bad, boring porn. But no, this movie had a vision. And I feel like the vision was just I can't describe it. I don't have the words for it, but I loved it. An interesting thing as well, I do find of like, I don't know, I do feel like I could talk about this in public, you know, is that I don't know any other Frankenstein's monster interpretations where actually the other pieces of the body have any actual influence on the brain and then the words, you know? I just thought that was intriguing. Nothing to think too deeply about, of course, because as I say, that this was just a fun, silly, comedic movie. As much as it brings up a lot of the, as I said, controversies of the era, they're just there to, I don't know, kind of make it relatable. They brush against these things, but ultimately it's just like, do you like fun? Do you want a prosthetic tit to take home? In terms of the low budget as well, like I don't think it would have been made better for this, but I didn't entirely know how to feel every time that I saw a super duper fake head. You know, there are some older films where the prosthetics are so fake, and especially when it comes to decapitated heads, that you're like, that doesn't even look like the character you're emulating. We had that with Elizabeth a lot, I think. I'm like, wait, who is that? It was obvious who it was from context, but I was also like, is that? Like, that's how bad the head was, you know? But don't take it from me, the face-blind girl who took way too long in the movie Yesterday to realise that their brothers were twins. So, I'm happy to announce that I'm giving Frankenhooker 1990 3.5 glasses of mysterious purple fluid. Hope you'll join me tomorrow for a 2021 film of a fantastic author with special connections to horror. Let's see how it goes. See you then.